lighter questions. So, I mean, right now we're going through the second year of COVID already.
Yeah.
And then, during this period, Netflix has been my best friend. And so I would like to know if there are any like TV shows or movies that you enjoyed during this period.
I'm watching from time to time K-dramas. What is really difficult for me, once I start one of these K-dramas, well, I consume it within 1 week. Last two ones I remember was, of course, Ojinger Game,
Oh,
the Squid Game. I watched it, but and the second thing I remember that I watched definitely in late summer, early fall was oh no, be careful to pronounce it correctly in Korean. Vincenzo. So Vincenzo, the because I found it interesting to see this role of this adoptee to Italy. But I was so shocked about how this is presented again, and also supporting this misconception, a perfect Korean-speaking adoptee. And
it shows the Korean culture more genuinely. One of the shows that does this really well is this Reply 1988. I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I would write it down and have it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend this one, because this one is, the setting is during like the late 80s and the early 90s, where I think our generation grew up, like our childhood, and then they really there's this nostalgic factor where they really try to show the culture, the Korean culture at the time.
And this is what I'm also most curious about. What was education for my German parents? What was early influence from my Korean family? Koreans were not that well nutritioned, and that I have brothers and sisters, that I'm relatively tall. I'm 182.
Wow.
So I assume I'm relatively big, and I want to understand, is my biological family, are they also tall? Or is this just the influence of good German sausages I got as a child? Yeah, so yeah, really, this is my curiosity.
The 친생부모를 찾습니다 campaign, how is it being shared in Korea?
So we started this campaign, I think, like 2 years ago, when we had a co-event with the Koreans in Frankfurt. Every adoptee finds an overseas Korean living in the Frankfurt area who's from the same hometown. Feel free to share through your social network channels. That what also the Koreans did at this time at this event. And really good story. One father contacted us after this campaign and found his daughter here in Germany. So he said her flyers also removed from the page now.
More individuals in Korea willing to help the German Korean adoptee community in whatever manner possible. In what ways do you think these individuals could help your your campaign?
I think the very first thing is be open. Don't have this wrong conceptions, this wrong ideas of those. Everyone every one of us is a special individual, and we are very, very happy about the contact with Koreans. So the very, very first thing that helps is just being open, talk to us, learn a little bit about us, but we are also happy to learn a little bit about you, and don't have this misconception from the beginning. Just be open for what persons these are, and often it comes to a very individual situation, how you can specifically help. Sometimes it's just being help as a translator for KBS or SBS and other media. So I think I tried everything I could do. I did the DNA test. I was at the police office. And really, I did everything I can do from distance. And I have to also end the thing, because this can't be an endless search for something you can't find anymore. But at least what I wrote in my flyer was like this last message to the parents: I don't accuse you anything. I'm totally fine. Please, if you are there, show up, because it personally would help me a little.
Yeah.
If you asked me when I was a child, what do you think? What do you want to tell your parents? And I would have probably been upset about the situation. you had asked me in my 20s, maybe I would be a little bit more open. Yeah, maybe I understand. But now in my late 30s, also being deeper in this topic, I know this is mostly a result of this historical social context in Korea, that there were circumstances where you couldn't raise a child. That's what I want to share, that I can somehow understand it maybe, but it's also being a little bit desperate. So knowing maybe there is someone who knows that you are looking for them, but they feel on their own a little bit guilty. So this is maybe the last desperate try to say, oh, okay, I don't accuse you of anything. I'm totally fine with that. But also, for at least for me personally, it's also something how I can, for me personally, close this issue. And there's another organization, it's called 325 Camera. They are giving out free DNA kits. We got a huge donation and giving out these DNA kits to every adoptee who's looking for his biological family. But we are giving this also out to every volunteer Korean, because what is lacking is a lot of Korean DNA. But in the end, whole world, through this DNA kit campaign, around 6,000 kits were given out. 130 direct relatives were found. Approximately
okay.
half of them were parents, and interesting, the other half were brothers and sisters of the adoptees. So they could at least find a relative of first degree, which is something. So I would be even happy about knowing, oh, I have siblings in the world. Maybe they are also adopted. So when I was the first time in Mokpo, I was handed from Korean to Korean because everyone knew someone else who could assist in a little way. That I was very, very happy and touched about that, because I never met these persons before, but they said, oh, this is a lost son of our town, let's help him. And, you know, I was in the hostel, and this hostel introduced me to other hotel owners, because there was a group of heritage hotel owners of Mokpo. And so I visited every day another of them, and they introduced me to my friends. So at the end, I even had to extend my stay because so many people wanted to talk and see me. So this always helps and doesn't cost you much.
I mean, this is definitely one of the positives, I think, in the Korean culture. They, especially in like little towns, they know 동네 아줌마 or 동네 아저씨.
Right. Someone always knows someone who can assist with a little bit, introduce you to 2 or 3 more people. So that already helps. So don't be afraid of the adoptees in general. They are nice. In Korea already gives you something. It's hard to describe. When I was the first time in Korea, the most surprising thing for me was that, at least when I'm not talking, I felt the first time in my life being part of the big mess. Just being one of many Koreans in Germany. Oh, you are still a little foreigner, you are a foreign body in the German society, but oh, you're just part of the huge mess. And of course, we enjoy the Korean food, Korean culture, a lot of things, and you can only experience this in Korea.
Do you have any closing remarks or messages that you would like to send to our audience?
I really like to share, be open, then don't be afraid, just approach them. They are in general very, very happy if a Korean approaching them and asking, oh, are you Korean? What is your background? And then maybe 1 out of 10, you can become friends. So that's my closing remark. So be open for the adoptees. We are usually very, very happy. Dankeschön und bis bald.